so following on from the video where I compared the Marshall DSL-50 to the Marshall Vintage Modern, somebody commented on there and asked if I could do a demo of the JMP-1. Why not? Let's do it. I've got my Greco Les Paul with a Gibson Dirty Fingers in the bridge. It's going into the JMP-1, and that is going into the Marshall DSL-50 effects return. I've set both devices to be at line level, so they're talking to one another with the correct impedance, and we'll just go through, I guess, the features and some of the sounds, and then we'll hear it in a mix. So I've shot a part 1 for this video. If you haven't watched it already, I will link it in the description. Basically, I had to change the tubes in this before I did a demo, so I did like a before and after with some sounds with the EQ set flat. So the way the JMP-1 works, and this is a source of a lot of mystery, I think, out there. Basically, the tone stack is flat, and the bass, middle, and treble and presence controls essentially control a graphic EQ that is post-gain. So you've got your gain, and then you've got this really clever way to deal with a tone stack shifting around with MIDI. So I guess that's kind of a compromise. Now, in the days of like modeling and the, you know, the modular preamps as well, that might seem a little bit limited, but keep in mind this thing's over 20 years old, and it's still pretty cool. There's some really good sounds in it. So on the front panel, you can see along the top you've got volume, gain, bass, what does that say? Middle, middle normally comes next. Treble, presence, and effect. Effect is for the effects loop, so pretty standard controls there. Then on the bottom we've got OD1, OD2, bass shift, clean 1, clean 2, map, and channel. Map and channel are all to do with MIDI programming, so we won't worry about that for now because we're just interested in the tones. But OD1 and OD2 are the two different gain modes. The bass shift is like a deep switch on a Marshall DSL, and then clean 1 and clean 2. So if I had to describe them, OD1, basically it's your JCM 800 kind of thing. OD2 is like a boosted JCM 800. And then clean 1 and clean 2. One of them sounds a little bit like a clean JTM 45 or something like that, and one is more of just a direct sort of, I guess, 80s, 90s clean sound, like clean. Anyway, with the EQ all flat, let's have a listen to some of the sounds. This is OD1, the gain is at 5. So I'll just play around with the gain control in each of the modes so that you can get an idea for them, and then we'll delve in and we'll do some EQing. Alright, so here's what the bass shift does. So I guess the idea there would be that you engage this and then you would turn the bass down a little bit. It's kind of like a depth control. So when you do that, basically I find you get a little bit of a tighter bass response, like the bass frequencies changed or something like that. Sounds really good with the OD2 mode. Alright, so let's have a listen to the extremes of the EQ. If I turn the bass shift off, then we'll just sit on OD1. The bass all the way down, then to all the way up. To my ears, you don't really need to get it past 1 or 2. Let's do the same thing with the mid-range. And similar, the extreme settings I find a little bit unusable, and then same with the treble. So I actually don't mind the treble roll back a little bit, and then using the presence control to compensate for any brightness that you lose. Or you can do the opposite, turn the presence down, turn the treble up a little bit. So for the gain channels at least, for a rhythm sound, I would probably want the treble up and the presence down, and I would want the opposite for a lead sound. But depends on what you're playing, like treble down and presence up to me is way more of that kind of metal thing, whereas the treble up and the presence down, it's kind of like a brown sound. I think it's pretty hip. Alright, I'm going to swap over guitars and we'll have a listen to the clean channels with a Strat. So same EQ settings as before, I've got a Strat now. I've turned the volume up to compensate because there is a big difference in volume. Obviously, because this would be MIDI switchable if you were using it in your rig, the preset to preset volume changes are really easy to work in. It's not a big deal. So same EQ settings, I've got the gain at 12. Let's have a listen to it with a Strat neck pickup. So hopefully that illustrates the difference between clean 1 and clean 2. Clean 1 to me is that real 80s style chimey clean. Sounds really nice with the bridge in the middle pickup. Whereas clean 2 to me is just like that classic Marshall JTM 45 thing. You know, neck and middle pickup, blissful. It's actually really nice. I could noodle around with that for days. And very quickly, let's hit the gain channels with the Strat. So with the speaker emulated out, it has an effects loop, and it obviously works really well with an EL34 bass amp like the Marshall. I'll do a quick clip with 6L6s with these same settings, just so you can get an idea of how big an influence the power amp has. Alright, so now that all is said and done, let's have a listen to the way this thing sounds in a mix. I went for OD1 for the left channel and OD2 for the right channel. Basically thinking about like the Iron Maiden style thing. They use this preamp, they're probably the more famous user, along with like Def Leppard and a few other bands. But using the OD1 channel with the Les Paul and the OD2 channel for the Les Paul for a slightly different character, one with more of a mid-scoop thing, one with more of a mid-hump, and then I use OD2 with the gain cranked up with the Strat for the lead, and I also use it on bass. I think I use OD1 and I scoop the mids right out and use the jazz bass, and that was kind of a cool, clicky, distorted bass sound. So that is the track. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and as always, leave a comment, let me know what you think.